This weekend, I took the time to do some spring cleaning in my office. I got rid of those piles of clutter that just seemed to build up in the corners of the room, and it's really made a difference in how I'm showing up in my work all week long. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to clean up your own website so that your website is working efficiently for your business without all that extra clutter. Join me while I clean up a website and show you exactly what steps you can take to make sure your own website doesn't have any of the extra junk that's unnecessary and is performing optimally for your business. You'll notice here that I am on the back end of a WordPress dashboard. This is the screen that you will come to once you log into the back end of your WordPress website. Now, it may look a little bit different. You'll see that I can go ahead and dismiss this welcome to WordPress, and that makes it disappear. And if you're using different tools on your website, you're not going to see the Elementor overview, and you may even see some different widgets on this page. That's not really important. What's important is that we have access to the menu on the side of your screen that will give us access to all of the different types of content that are on your site. So I'm going to make this super easy by going straight down this menu. Now, again, if you're using different tools, there's a very good chance that your site is going to look a little bit different on this side. That being said, everything that I'm going to reference in this video is something that your site will have, and you'll just need to skip over anything that isn't covered in this video. So very first thing that I want to do when I am cleaning up a WordPress website is I want to make sure that everything is up to date. So we can see here that the updates there is one required. And so I'm going to go ahead, click here and make that update to my site. You're going to see the tools here that you need to update on your site. Again, if you're using different tools, your plugins may look different, but go ahead and check this box and update all of your plugins. I should also note that before you start any of these changes, you should go in and make sure that you have a full backup of your site as it exists right now. That way, if anything should happen that you need to reverse, you can restore that backup to your site. Now, backups would be either set up through a plugin like Updraft Plus, or your host usually takes backups depending on exactly who you're hosting with. And those backups would be accessible through your hosting account, and they usually go back as far as 30 days previous. Now that we've done these updates, the next thing that I want to clean up is the posts here on your site. So these are going to be your blog posts. And I only have a few blog posts on this sample site that I'm cleaning up. But if you have a blog that you've been working on for quite some time, chances are you have some drafts that are saved in here that you either need to finish or need to get rid of. And you may also have some old posts that just don't really vibe with your business right now. So scroll through all of the posts that you have, take a look at what content is there and what's showing up, and delete anything that doesn't make sense anymore or that you're not using. The other thing that is a good practice to take care of at this time is to edit these categories to make sure that these categories are reflective of your business. So I'm going to go under categories here, and I always tell people to make sure they change uncategorized, edit this to something that reflects your business. So as you can see up here at the top, this website is for Wandersoul templates. These are the templates that I'm soon to be selling in my shop. And I'm going to edit this so that it says Wandersoul templates. I also want to edit the slug to be Wandersoul-templates and update that in order that now every blog post is going to show up with that category. You can also add other categories. So for example, these WordPress templates, I could add a category that says WordPress or WordPress templates, how to DIY your website, DIYing your website. I would choose categories that have to do with the business that is represented on this website. So if you think your blog posts need a little bit of extra categorization, this is a great time to go in, edit the categories that you do have, add any new ones that are necessary, and make sure the blog posts that are on your site are reflected in the correct categories. The next thing that I want to clean on your site is the media. And the media is every piece of branding on your site that I'm sorry, not every piece of branding. I got lost in these images. It's all of the content that has been uploaded to your site, meaning all of the images, any PDF files. I think that's, nope, I don't know what that is. But images, logos, anything like that. I happen to know that all of these photos are in use on my website, and I only have 36 media items, which really isn't that many. You likely have 100 or more media items on any given 5 to 8 page website. If your site is bigger, you can expect more media here. And the thing that I like to do is I usually load all of the media items and I start at the bottom because those are going to be the media items that were uploaded earliest on in building your site. And a lot of times there are multiple iterations of a website, and as that website changes, it doesn't always get cleaned up on the back end. So this is a really great time to load all of the media, scroll through, and delete any photos that you know are not in use on your website. If you're unsure if the photo is in use, I recommend leaving it, because if you delete it, that is going to show a blank image on the front end, and it could really mess with the design of your site if you were to delete an image that is currently in use on your site. So once you've cleaned up your media, the next thing that we want to go ahead and take a look at are your pages. And your pages are going to show up in a similar manner to your posts. This is going to list out every page that you have on your website. And again, especially if you have done your website yourself, a lot of times we save drafts of pages that we think we might need later, or we stop using a page and never actually get rid of it. So this is a really good time to scroll through your pages. And if you want to load every single page on just one page instead of having to scroll through multiple pages, if you have more than 25 pages on your site, you can go up here to screen options and change the number of items that are shown per page. And in this area, just set a number that is higher than the amount of pages that you have, apply the settings, and all of the pages will show up on just one page in alphabetical order so that you can scroll through and clean up anything that doesn't make sense anymore, or that is a draft you no longer need, or anything like that. So take a look at every page that's on your site and make sure that there's nothing there that is not useful to how your site functions. The next thing that we're going to clean up is the comments section. Now, again, this is not a live site that anyone would have access to make comments on any of the sample posts that I have. And so I don't have any comments here to clean up. But if you have comments here, a lot of times, I'm not saying this is for every single comment, but many comments are spam comments. And so what you want to do is you want to make sure that if there are any pending comments, you either approve them, mark them as spam, and or put them in the trash. And if there were a comment here, all of those options would be present on the comment. So just use your best judgment, read through the comment, see what it actually says, and if it's relevant to the content of the post that is on your site, go ahead and approve it. But if it doesn't make any sense or it seems like spam, just go ahead and mark it spam and put it in the trash. The next thing that I want to clean up with you, we're going to click off of this WordPress menu to look at our themes. So I have hovered over appearance and I'm going to click here on themes. So this is actually perfect because I did not set this up correctly in the beginning. I installed a new active theme called Astra, but what I didn't do was delete the old themes that we're not using. Now, I think it's a good rule of thumb to leave one extra theme on your website, but we don't want to have other extra themes that we're not using because they can cause our sites to be bloated, slow them down, and they can also cause security issues. So any theme that you're not using on your website, I would get rid of and then keep just one backup. I like to keep the standard WordPress theme. This is the latest theme that they have put out. And that way, in case I ever need to test if there's an issue with my theme, I can switch to this other one, and this will always act as a fallback theme if anything happens to the first theme on the website. So I am going to click on theme details, and down here in the right hand corner, I'm going to click delete, which will remove this from the website. And there we go. Now we have just the one active theme and one fallback theme to keep on the site. The next thing that I want to look at is the plugins. And this is another area where you may have a lot more plugins than just the 3 I'm using on this site. I kept this site lean on purpose because it is not an active live site. It is just a place for me to showcase my templates that are upcoming. But so what I would suggest is scrolling through all of the plugins that are on your site. And if you don't know what something is, Google it in the search bar, double check that you actually have a grasp on what the plugin does for your website, and make sure that it's something that you still need to use. If you don't need to use it, go ahead and deactivate it. And then once you've clicked deactivate, you'll have the option to move it to the trash. I don't recommend, if you are confused about whether a plugin is in use, I don't recommend deactivating it. However, if you are certain that it's a plugin that you're no longer using, for example, if it was a plugin that pulls your Instagram feed onto your website, but you know that your Instagram feed is no longer featured on your website, go ahead and deactivate that plugin, delete it from your site. And again, what we're trying to do there is speed up our sites, optimize our sites for performance, and reduce any bloat that might slow them down. The next thing that I want us to look at is the users tab. And users are the people who have access, login access to your site. And there's a few different roles. The most common one is administrator, if someone has been given access to edit your site. But if you have a membership or something other than just your standard brochure site, you may also have subscribers or members or a larger list here than what I have. What I want you to do is scroll through the list of users, and anyone that has access to your site that no longer needs access, go ahead and delete them as a user. And so this is in order to keep your site as secure as possible. We want to make sure that as few people as possible or as necessary have access to the full back end of your site. So go ahead and delete anyone that you don't recognize or don't know about, and make sure that the only people that have access to your site are the people who, as of the last month or so, are working actively on your site to improve it. The next thing that I would like to talk to you about is a few steps that we can take to go a little bit further in this optimization process. So far, we've talked about the ways that you can clean your site up, but there are other ways that you can protect your site and make sure that it is performing optimally in the best use case for your business. And so there are a few other things I want to talk to you about today. The first thing that I want to talk to you about is making sure that backups are being taken of your site. Now, we talked earlier about your website and making sure you had a backup before you started to make any changes, but I wanted to show you a couple of ways in which backups can be taken for your site. So the first place that backups are being taken for all of my sites are within the hosting panel. So I host all of my sites with SiteGround, and SiteGround has a feature in the site tools where backups are taken and stored on a regular basis. So I am going to go to security here in the site tools in the back end of my hosting and click on backups. And as you can see, my website has all of these backups stored. So if you are with SiteGround, you will also have these backups here. And so you don't necessarily need to take any next steps to ensure that your site is secure and backed up. However, if you want to add an extra layer of protection, there's a free tool that I recommend using. And this is a tool that I use on all of my websites. I'm going to go to settings. And I have already installed it. If you have not installed Updraft Plus yet, you're going to want to go to Plugins, Add New, search for Updraft, and you will find Updraft there. Download and activate that plugin, and then you'll be prompted to set it up. And on all of my sites, I take backups and I send them to my Google Drive. And this means that I always have access to a backup of my site, no matter what happens, whether it be something that happens with my hosting account, something that happens with my domain. These backups will stay stored on my Google Drive until I delete them or until a new backup replaces them. So if no new backups are being taken, these backups are going to stay on my Google Drive, stored there until, or in the case that I need them in the future. So you'll want to go to settings, set up how often you want the backups to be taken, and then pick your preferred storage option, sign into your own account after you click the save button, and in that way you will be able to send a backup of your site to your own offsite storage so that you know that you always have the files for your site accessible. The next tool that I like to use on all of the sites that I build is WordFence. And WordFence is a security plugin. It's a free security plugin that will help make sure that your site is protected from any outside attacks, malware, hacking. And now there is no option that's going to make sure your site is secure all the time, no matter what. Hackers can always get through. But what WordFence does is it gives you a modicum of protection to know that your site is secure. And there are also premium options if you feel like you need to go even further than what the WordFence free plugin will allow on your site. Again, in order to download and activate this, you will go to Plugins, Add New, search for the WordFence plugin, install it and activate it, and then you'll be prompted to set this plugin up on your site to keep it secure. The last plugin that I recommend adding to your site is WP Optimize. And now you want to be clear that you're not already using an optimization plugin on your site because they can interact with each other. So if you're not sure, or if you know that a different one is in place, feel free to send me an email directly at hello@wandersoulco.com, and I will help you take a look at the best optimization options that are out there for you. If you are certain that there is no optimization plugin already installed, this is a great one that you can use in order to clean up your databases, clean up your images and make sure they're optimized, as well as create a cache for your site. And a cache acts as an intermediary that will help load your website faster. Basically, it's a picture of your website that gets stored every 24 or 48 hours, and it helps people who have already visited your site come back to it, as well as speeding up your site for those visitors that are returning. So here I like to set up the options under images. I always check automatically compress newly added images. And if there are uncompressed images down here, I will select them and I will compress the selected images. And what's that's going to do, it's going to help your images load faster on the front end of your website. I also always come over to cache and enable page caching. I usually go ahead then and purge the cache, which is going to get rid of any files that are already stored in there. You'll see that went from multiples of numbers down to 0. And then I click Save Changes. And from there, I have set up this to the extent that I would be comfortable telling you to set up yourself. There is this minify option, which I enable on many of my sites, but this can have large consequences to what the front end of a site looks like. So I don't recommend enabling this unless you have your own knowledge that this will work for your website. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me today for learning how to clean up your own website. I'm so glad that I was able to teach you how to do this spring cleaning for your WordPress website in hopes that it will optimize the performance of your site so that it is working faster and better for your business all the time. If you have any more questions about what I have talked about here, please feel free to email me directly at hello@wandersoulco.com. You can also always find me at wandersoulco.com or at wandersoulwebdesign on Instagram. Feel free to send me a message, learn more about me, learn more about my work, and see how we can work together to optimize your website, optimize your online presence, and have you feeling confident about your visual identity and how you're showing up online. I am so glad that you took the time to watch this video, and I will see you here again soon.